A New Year's celebration at a Swiss ski resort. It's supposed to be the start of something great, right? But this one turned into an absolute nightmare. We're going to walk through exactly what happened, the terrifying science behind it all, and, well, the most haunting part, how this has all happened before.
The numbers here, they're just devastating. Let's start with the fatalities. At least 40 people. 40 people who went out to celebrate and never came home.
And it doesn't stop there. On top of that, you have another 119 people who were injured. And we're hearing that so many of them are still in the hospital, literally fighting for their lives right now.
So how does something like this even happen? Let's go back to that night. Picture this. It's New Year's Day, about 1:30 in the morning. You're in this super popular, high-end basement bar at a ski resort, and it is just packed. Everyone's celebrating. I mean, the energy in there must have been incredible. Staff are weaving through this super crowded room, holding up champagne bottles, and on top of them, lit sparklers. You know, that extra festive touch. But that little detail, that's what would trigger the entire catastrophe in just a few seconds.
So how does a party just flash into an inferno that fast? It seems impossible. Let's really get into the science of it, the nitty-gritty of what happened in those first few moments. And we know this because of verified videos that came from inside the bar.
You know, it's the speed that's so terrifying. It all happened in a blink. The sparklers, right, they're being held up high, and they get just a little too close to the ceiling. A ceiling that, it turns out, was covered in these super flammable acoustic tiles. They just, poof, caught fire almost instantly. You can see people trying to bat at the flames, but it was useless. Within seconds, the fire was everywhere.
And now, investigators are officially confirming this. The lead prosecutor basically said, yep, we believe the fire from the sparklers got too close to the ceiling, and that created something they call a flashover. That led to the whole place just combusting, almost all at once.
So what in the world is a flashover? It's a firefighter's worst nightmare. Think of it like this. It's the moment in a fire when everything in a room, I'm talking the furniture, the walls, even the air itself, heats up so much that it all hits its ignition point at the exact same time. It's not the fire spreading from one thing to another. No, it's the entire room exploding into flames simultaneously. It's instant, it's completely unsurvivable. And that right there explains why nobody had any time to react.
So you can just imagine, the whole room is an inferno, and pure panic just takes over. Survivors talk about absolute total chaos. Everyone is making a mad dash for the exit, but there's only one single small door. That bottleneck, that's what turned a desperate escape into this horrific, deadly struggle.
And in the aftermath, that's when the true scale of this tragedy really started to hit home. We began to see the stories, the grief, and just how international this loss really was.
Yeah, this wasn't just a local Swiss tragedy. I mean, look at this. The victims were from at least 9 different countries across Europe. The number of people with severe burns was so high, so overwhelming, that about 50 of them had to be flown to specialized hospitals in other countries. It was really a moment where you saw all of Europe stepping up to help.
And the horror wasn't just contained inside that bar. One guy who saw what happened afterwards, he described it as looking like scenes of war. But he said the thing that will stick with him forever wasn't what he saw, but what he heard. The sound. The screaming of all those young people, just screaming in pain. And you know, the crisis is far from over. Authorities are still trying to identify every single victim. Can you imagine? For those families, it's just this agonizing wait. Reporters on the scene saw a father just collapse in the street, on his knees, completely overcome with grief for his missing son. The community, though, they really rallied. A local bank actually opened up its doors and turned into a makeshift triage center. Now here's the part that is just gut-wrenching. What makes this whole thing even more devastating is that this isn't some freak, one-off accident. It's happened before. In fact, the parallels to a disaster from more than 20 years ago are absolutely chilling.
You know, the experts, they saw it right away. Former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis, for example, he pointed out that this is eerily similar to this station nightclub fire that happened in Rhode Island all the way back in 2003. And when you put them side by side, wow, the comparison is just unreal. In Switzerland, you had indoor sparklers lighting up flammable acoustic tiles. In the station fire, it was a rock band's pyrotechnics igniting flammable soundproofing foam on the walls. I mean, it's practically the exact same story.
This chart really lays it all out, and it's just stunning. Both fires had an indoor ignition source. Both had highly flammable material used for sound dampening. Both had that rapid, deadly flashover. And, this is the crucial part, both had terrible exit strategies, inadequate or blocked doors. The outcomes, just devastatingly similar. That station fire ended up killing 100 people.
And if you want to understand just how horrific a blocked exit is during a flashover, listen to this. One of the lead investigators from the station fire shared this absolutely grim detail. He said when first responders finally got in, they found victims piled up like cordwood at the front door, just stacked on top of each other, because they couldn't get out of the inferno that destroyed that building in less than 6 minutes.
Okay, so that brings us to today. As Switzerland mourns, this massive, complex investigation is just getting started to figure out, what went wrong and who, if anyone, is to blame.
So the official inquiry is going to happen in a few steps. First up, the criminal investigation. Did someone break the law? Then, right after that, they're going to do a deep dive into all the fire codes, the capacity rules, the building materials, the whole shebang. And the goal, obviously, is to make sure this can never, ever happen again.
But in the middle of all the legal stuff and the technical reviews, the authorities have made one thing really clear. Their #1 priority isn't the paperwork. It's the people. It's identifying every single victim to finally give some answers to those poor families who are just waiting in agony.
And that leaves us with this really tough question, doesn't it? When you see history repeat itself with such tragic, terrible precision, it just forces you to wonder, what are we failing to learn?